everybody, this is the Minecraft King, Burnett. So now we have with me today is a book. It's the second book of Ember. It's The People of Sparks, the second book of Ember by Jane Duprat, maybe? I don't know. But today we will be reading this book, and hopefully I will be able to get the first book in at some point, but I don't have it with me. But I've already read almost through the book. So, the message. Dear people of Ember, we came down the river from the pipeworks and found the way to another place. It is green here and very big. It comes from the sky. You must follow the instructions on the message and come on the river. Bring food with you. Come as quickly as you can. Lina, Mayfleet, and Dune Harrow. Chapter 1, Part 1, Arrival. Chapter 1. What Torn saw. Torn was out at the edge of the cabbage field that day. The day the people came. He was supposed to be fetching a couple of cabbages for Dr. Hessler to use in soup for that night. But, as usual, he did not see why he shouldn't have some fun while he was at it. Soon he climbed up the wind tower, which he wasn't supposed to do because they said he might fall off or get his head sliced off by the big blades going around and round. The wind tower was four sides. Was made of board, nailed one on the next, like rungs on a ladder. Torn climbed the back side of it, and the side that faced the hills and not the village. So the little group of workers hoeing cabbage field rows wouldn't see him at the top. He turned around and sat on a flat place behind the bales, which turned slowly in the behind the blades, which turned slowly in the idle summer breeze, which has brought a he had brought a pocket full of small stones up with him, planning on target practice. He liked to try to hit the chickens that rumbled around between the rows of cabbages. He thought it might be fun to bounce a few pebbles off the hats of the workers too. But before he had taken the stones from his pocket, he caught a sight of something that made him stop and stare. Beyond the cabbage field was another field where young tomatoes and corn and squash plants were growing, and beyond that was a land sloped up into a grassy hillside topped by this time of year with the yellow mustard flowers. Thorn saw something strange at the top of the hill, something dark. There were bits of darkness at first. For a second he thought it might be a deer, or several deer, black ones instead of the usual light brown. But the shape was wrong for a deer, and the way these things moved was wrong too. He realized very soon that he was seeing people. A few people at first, even more, and then more and more of them. They came up from the other side of the hill, gathering at the top. They stood there, a long line against the sky, like rows of black teeth. There must be hundreds, a hundred of them, Torn thought, and or more than 100 in his life. In his life, Torrance never seen more than 3 or 4 people at a time arrive at the village elsewhere. Almost always the people who came were roamers, passed, passed through with truckloads of stuff from the old towns to sell. This mess, mess, massing of people on the hilltop terrified him. For a moment he couldn't that his then his heart started up a pounding, and he scrambled down off the wind tower so fast that he scraped his hand on the rough boards. "Someone's coming!" he shouted as he passed the workers. They looked up and startled. Torn ran at full speed towards the low cluster of brown buildings as far into the field. His turning up, he turned up the dirt lane. His feet racing, swirling of dust, and dashed through the gate in the wall, across the courtyard, in through the open door. All that time yelling, "Someone's coming! Up on the hill! And Annie Hessler, someone's coming!" He found his aunt in the kitchen, and he grabbed her by the waist of her pants, and cried, "Come and see! There are people on the hilltop." His voice was so shrill and urgent and loud that his aunt dropped a spoon into a pot of soup that she had been stirring, and hurried after him. But by the time they got outside, there were others from the village were leaving their houses to see, looking towards the hillside. The people were coming down over the hill. They came and kept coming, dozens of them, more and more like life. People of the village crowded into the street. Get Mary Walters!" someone cried. "Where's Ben and Wilmer? Find them! Tell them to get out here!" Torn was less frightened now that he was surrounded by the townspeople. "I saw them first," he said to Henny Collar, who happened to be hurrying along next to him. "The one who told the news." "Is that right?" said Hustler. "Henny, we wouldn't let them do anything bad to us," said Torn. "If if they do, we'll do something worse to them, won't we?" But she glanced down at him with a frown and gave the answer. The 3 village leaders, Mary Walters, Ben Barrow, and Wilmer Dent, had joined the crowd by now and were leading the way across the cabbage field. Torn kept close behind them. The strangers were getting nearer, and he wanted to hear what they would say. He could see that they were terrible looking people. Their clothes were wrong, coats and sweaters, though the weather was warm, and not nice coats and sweaters, but raggedy ones, pinched, patched, unraveling, faded and grimy. They carried bundles of all, all of them, sacks made from what looked like tablecloths or blankets gathered and tied with string around the neck. They moved clumsily and slowly. Some of them tripped on uneven ground and had to be helped up by others. The center of the field, in the center of the field, were the small new cabbages and fresh dirt, and chicken was strong. In front of the crowd of strangers met the village leaders. Mary Walters stepped in front of the villagers crowded up behind her. Torn began being small, wiggled between the people until he had a good view. He stared at the ragged people. Where were their leaders? Facing Mary was a girl and a boy who looked only a little older than he was. Next to them was a bald man, and next to him was a sharp-eyed woman carrying a small child. Maybe she was the leader. But when Mary stepped forward and said, "Who are you?" It was the boy who answered. He spoke in a clear, loud voice that surprised Torn, who had expected a painful, pitiful voice from someone bed-ragged. "We are from the city of Ember," the voice said. "We left there because he was dying. We need help." Mary, Ben, and Wilmer exchanged glances. "Mary from the city of Ember? Where is that? We never heard of it." The boy gestured back the way they've come. "The east, that way," he said. "It's underground." The frowns deepened. "Tell us the truth," said Ben. "Not childish nonsense." This time the girl spoke. She had long, scattered hair with bits of grass caught in it. "It isn't a lie," she said. "Our city was underground. We didn't know until we came out." Ben stroked Ben strode impatiently, folding his arms across his. "Who is in charge here?" He was looking at the bald man. "Is it you?" The bald man shook his head and gestured toward him and the girl. "They're in charge as anyone," he said. "The mayor of our city is no longer with us. These young people are speaking the truth. From a city that was built underground." The people around him murmured, "Yes, it is true." "My name is Dune Harrow," said Lily, "and this is Lina Mason. We found the way out of Ember." "He thinks he's pretty great," thought Torn, hearing a note of pride in boy's voice. He didn't look so great. His hair was shaggy, and he was wearing an old jacket that was coming apart at the seams and gritty at the cuffs. But his eyes shone out confidently from under his dark eyebrow. "We are hungry," the voice said, "and thirsty. Will you help us?" Mary, Ben, and Wilmer stood silently for a moment. Then Mary took Ben and Wilmer by the arms and led them aside a few steps. and they whispered to each other and glanced up at the great swarm of strangers. Frowned, frowned, whispered some more while they waited to hear what they. Torn studied the people who said they came around. It might be true. They looked, in fact, they did in fact look like they had come out of a hole. Most of them were scrawny and pale, like the crowds you see you when you lift up a board that has been laying on the ground. Feeble things that had tried to grow in the they huddled together looking frightened. They looked exhausted. Mary, many of them had sat down on the ground now, and some of them had their heads in the laps and of others had their heads in the laps of others. The three village leaders turned again to the crowd, strangers. How many of you are there? Mary Walters asked. About 400, said the boy. Said the boy. Mary's dark eyebrows jumped upwards. 400 in Doran's whole village. There were only 322. He swept his gaze over the vast horde. They filled half the carriage fields, and they were still coming over the hill like a swarm of ants. The girl with the raggedy hair stepped forward and raised her hand as if she was asleep. "Excuse me, Madam Mayor," she said. Torn sickened. Madam Mayor? Nobody called Mary Walters Madam Mayor. They just called her Mary. "Madam Mayor," the girl said, "my little sister is very sick." She pointed to the baby holding by the sharp-eyed woman. It didn't look sick. Its eyebrows were half closed, eyes were half closed, and its mouth was hanging over. Some of us are sick too," the girl went on. "Or her Lottie, Lottie, Lottie Hoover hurt his ankle. Nammy Preggles is exhausted from walking so far. She's nearly 80 years old. Is there a doctor in your town? Is there a place that you take the sick that can lie down and be taken care of?" Mary turned to Ben and Walter, and they spoke to each other in each other's low voices. Torn could catch only a few birds, they said. Too many, but human kindness. Maybe take a few in. Ben rubbed his burn. Ben rubbed his burn bird, no, whatever, and swallowed. Wilmer kept glancing at the sick baby. After a few minutes, they nodded to each other. Mary said, "All right, hoist me up." Ben and Wilmer bent down and grabbed Mary's legs. With a grunt, they lifted her so that she was high enough to see over the crowd. She raised her arms and cried in a voice that came from deep in her chest. "People of Ember, well, we will do what we can to help you. Please follow us." Ben and Wilmer sat down, and the three of them turned and walked out of the cabbage field and towards the road that entered the village. Led by the boy and the girl, the crowd shabbily people followed. The crowd of shabby people followed. Torn dashed ahead, ran down the lane and got up onto a low wall that bordered his house. From there he watched the people underground go by. They were stingy, quiet, startling silent. Why were they jabbing to each other? But they seemed too tired to speak or too stupid. Boy. they started. They stared at everything wide-eyed and dropped jawed, as if they never seen a house before, or a tree, or a chicken. In fact, the chickens seemed to frighten them. They shrank back when they saw them, making startled sounds. It took a long time for the whole raggedy crowd to past Torn's house, and by then the last people had gone by. He jumped off the wall and followed them. They were being led, he knew, to the downtown center, down by the river. There, where he knew, oh no, where there would be water for them to drink. After what would happen? They would need to eat. Where they sleep, not in my room. Well, that is chapter 1, and that is where I shall be leaving you, as I want to keep my chapters. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That was chapter 1. People Sparks. I can remember. So, the People Sparks. The second book, Ember. I'll have the first book, the third, and the fourth, and that will be quite interesting. So the People Sparks. Their Lord in that glare. Get rid of it. No. There you go. I don't care if you can't see that. My camera's not very good. And that is all we have for today. It's 22 minutes and 44 seconds. And that is all from the Minecraft Feet. As always, have a good day. See you next time.